Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. One day, after Zhang Changzong had finished attending to Empress Wu Zetian's afternoon rest, he noticed that Shangguan Wan'er was still at her desk, earnestly reviewing memorials. He tiptoed behind her and suddenly reached out to embrace her. "Wan'er, I've missed you so much," he whispered. Shangguan Wan'er immediately struggled, trying to break free from his embrace. But Zhang Changzong held on tightly, refusing to let go. "Don't pretend to be so virtuous," he said with a lecherous grin. "Even Her Majesty praises me for how well I serve her and trusts me deeply. You're a woman alone in the deep palace, don't you long for someone to spend the night with?" Just then, a palace maid came rushing in to report, "The Prime Minister is here." Only then did Zhang Changzong reluctantly let go, while Shangguan Wan'er was already drenched in cold sweat from fright. Zhang Changzong was naturally flirtatious. Although he outwardly went to great lengths to please Wu Zetian and had earned her favor, he was not truly content. After all, Wu Zetian was nearly 70 years old, how could she genuinely delight him? Shangguan Wan'er, on the other hand, though over 30, possessed an elegant demeanor and dignified beauty. More importantly, she was intelligent, calm, and spirited, far more captivating than the average palace maid. Moreover, Wan'er had entered the palace at the age of 15 and had served at Wu Zetian's side for over a decade. She lived with integrity, was indifferent to fame and fortune, and had a tranquil heart. She had long seen through Zhang Changzong's nature and felt nothing but disgust for his lewd gaze. However, due to Wu Zetian's favor toward him, she had no choice but to encounter him frequently and maintain a superficial appearance of civility. Still, Zhang Changzong would often take advantage of Wu Zetian's absence to touch her inappropriately, speak to her in a frivolous manner, and even flirt openly. But Wan'er never wavered, she either responded with cold indifference or outright disdain. One evening, the moonlight bathed the stone paths of the imperial garden in silver, casting a quiet, eerie beauty. Shangguan Wan'er was returning from a walk when someone suddenly blocked her path. It was Zhang Changzong. He approached with a smirk. "Wan'er, don't go. Let's have a chat." Wan'er's gaze was frosty, she had no desire to speak to him and was about to walk around him when a cold sneer crossed her heart. "This fool courting death, his downfall is only a matter of time." She had never flattered him, and she certainly wasn't afraid he'd slander her before Wu Zetian. Zhang Changzong grew furious at her cold attitude. He was used to fawning faces in the palace, and Wan'er's continual disdain only made him more unwilling to let go. He thought to himself, "Even if Wu Zetian favors you, tonight I'll teach you a lesson." He lunged forward again, forcefully embracing Wan'er and trying to kiss her. Wan'er struggled, her face flushed with anger. Zhang Changzong, pushing his luck, even tried to drag her into the bushes. At that critical moment, a sharp voice tore through the night. "Insolent!" The two froze in shock. Wan'er didn't even need to look up, she knew, Wu Zetian had arrived. This time, the Empress's timing couldn't have been more perfect. Though Wan'er knew she would likely face punishment, it was far better than falling into the clutches of that beast in human clothing. And a sudden realization struck her, this had all been a trap set by Zhang Changzong, a way to retaliate for her coldness and disdain. Wu Zetian's personal guards immediately seized both Shangguan Wan'er and Zhang Changzong, tying them up tightly with ropes and escorting them to the Daming Palace. As soon as they reached the palace gates, Shangguan Wan'er, swallowing her humiliation, knelt down and asked to be punished. Wu Zetian's face was ashen, her gaze dark and cold. Even her delicate makeup looked pale from fury. She stared at Shangguan Wan'er like a dagger, and demanded, "Tell me, what exactly happened? Is this your loyalty to me?" Wan'er remained silent. She knew that no matter what she said, Wu Zetian would not easily believe her now. Suddenly, Zhang Changzong dropped to his knees with a loud thud and said with a choked voice, "Your Majesty, it was my weakness. I couldn't resist her seduction. I have wronged you. Please punish me. Wanner cast him a cold glance. At that moment, Zhang Changzong revealed a faint, triumphant smile. Wu Zetian, consumed by rage, stormed up to Wanner, pulled the golden hairpin from her head. And, without hesitation, stabbed it toward her. Wanner, caught off guard, had a gash sliced into her forehead. Blood trickled slowly down her face. She endured the pain and choked out. Wanner has followed your majesty for many years and has never engaged in any improper conduct with a man. Your majesty knows my character better than anyone. Wu Zetian looked at her, blood streaming down her face, and was suddenly struck by a pang in her heart. As though awakened from her fury. She fell silent for a moment, and let out a long, soft sigh. Shangguan Wanner knew deep in her heart that even if Empress Wu Zetian knew the truth, she still wouldn't easily forgive her. Because, at this point in her life, Wu Zetian couldn't yet bear to part with Zhang Changzong, this man who had brought some emotional comfort and fleeting joy to her otherwise dull twilight years. A few days later, a visible scar appeared on Shangguan Wanner's forehead. To her, it was not just a wound, but a humiliation. Yet Shangguan Wanner did not sink into despair. Instead, she chose a unique way to transform her pain. She carefully painted a red plum blossom over the scar, a symbol of resilience and self-restraint. Several days later, Shangguan Wanner returned to the Daming Palace to resume her duties. She handled state affairs and reviewed memorials with her usual poise, as if nothing had ever happened. Wu Zetian happened to see the bright red plum blossom on Wanner's forehead and froze in place. She said nothing. Shangguan Wanner remained silent as well. But her strength and silence spoke more powerfully than 1,000 words. From that day on, Zhang Changzong no longer dared to act recklessly in front of Wanner. The shame of that night, combined with the strength beneath her red plum makeup, became an unshakable shadow in his mind. The palace maids, seeing how unique and elegant Shangguan Wanner's red plum makeup was, began to imitate it. They found it both fresh and refined. That red plum blossom blooming on her snow-white forehead resembled a plum blossom blossoming in the dead of winter, making her bright eyes and fine features appear even more striking and serene. People were reminded of Wang Ungshi's famous poem Ode to the Plum Blossom. In the corner of the wall, a few branches bloom alone in the cold. From afar it's not mistaken for snow, for its fragrance subtly floats. That red plum did not only bloom on Wanner's forehead, it bloomed in her proud and unyielding heart. From then on, this makeup style became popular in the palace and was named the red plum makeup, to better cover her scar. Shangguan Wanner also created a distinctive hairstyle using curls to hide her forehead. Later generations came to call it the Shangguan topknot. According to historical records, Shangguan Wanner, whose surname was originally Shangguan, came from Longxi Commandery. She was the granddaughter of the famous Tang Dynasty Chancellor Shangguan Yi, and the daughter of the official Shangguan Tingzhi. Shangguan Wanner was not only a female official of special status, but also a gifted poet with remarkable talent. Her childhood was far from smooth. Because her grandfather, Shangguan Yi, was implicated in political struggles, she and her mother were punished and sent to the inner palace, becoming court slaves. Yet even in adversity, her mother diligently taught her to read and write and encouraged her to study poetry and literature. Wanner, gifted with intelligence and a strong work ethic, excelled at writing poems and essays. She also became highly skilled in administrative affairs, quick-witted and exceptionally talented. Her brilliance soon caught the attention of Empress Wu Zetian, who promoted her to the position of Nei Sharon, an inner court attendant, making her an important assistant at the Empress's side. At just 13 years old, Shangguan Wanner was granted the title of Kairan, a low-ranking imperial consort, by Emperor Gaozong of Tang. Though still young, she was already deeply trusted, often drafting imperial edicts on behalf of Wu Zetian and participating in governance. By the Shengli era, even many officials' memorials had to be reviewed and decided upon by her. After Emperor Zhongzong was restored to the throne, Shangguan Wan'er was granted the title Jieyu, a high-ranking imperial concubine, continuing to oversee official documents. She was later promoted to Zhaorong, which is why later generations often referred to her as Shangguan Zhaorong. She was deeply trusted by the emperor, and even suggested that Zhongzong established the Zhaowen scholars to gather talented writers and poets, bringing many of the era's renowned literati and officials into the court, greatly advancing the development of palace literature. Shangguan Wan'er also composed poetry and prose on behalf of the emperor, empress, and princesses, and participated in poetic exchanges at court, earning the title of imperial literary talent. She was also tasked with evaluating the writings of officials, and her critiques were fair and convincing. Her close relationship with the powerful official Wu Sanxi gave her considerable influence at court. However, fate was cruel. In the first year of the Tanglong era, 710, princely Longji of Linzi, later Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, launched the Tanglong coup. The brilliant woman Shangguan Wan'er, for her association with Wu Sanxi's faction, was killed by rebel soldiers. She was 46 years old at the time. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.